Hi everybody, this is Mark Goublon. In this video, we're going to go through the customer avatar worksheet, which is also known as the customer success profile worksheet. I used a different name to describe this particular worksheet. I wanted to make sure that this document stood out because sometimes when you hear the same terminology over and over again from a consumer perspective, you tend to tune things out. So I describe this document as a customer success profile rather than a customer avatar worksheet. But really they're one and the same thing, and the goal of this worksheet is to create a profile so that when you talk to your audience, you're speaking to a single individual and you're meeting the needs of that single individual. It makes for your marketing to be much more effective and targeted so that the people that need to hear your message actually hear it, and then you reach them and you're able to help them in the long run. So let's sit back, and this tutorial is obviously you're watching on a recording. Pause it, work through the worksheet, come back to the tutorial and get it done. Now, the whole idea of this is to make this as easy as possible for you. If you already know about what a customer avatar is, the worksheet should be pretty self-explanatory. If this is the first time that you're going through this, then this tutorial is exactly what you need to watch. And again, if you have done this before, I think it might be a good idea for you to watch through this video and kind of refresh those things that you might have forgotten in the past. So let's get right into it. Down here, the first section that I wanted to have on here is personal information. It might seem very creepy, I guess, when you think about writing down the name of the person, their gender, their age, if they're married, are they attractive or not, do they have kids, what are their ages. It seems weird at first, if you've never done this before, to go into a specific description in this way. It feels odd, but here's why we do it. When you get very specific to the person you're talking to, you can almost visualize what they look like, what they're doing at that exact moment. So if you picture an individual that has kids, has a family, and you look at your watch and it's 7 o'clock at night and you want to write an email to them, you might immediately connect with that and say, oh, okay, they must be either eating dinner or getting ready to put the kids down. They might be washing dishes, doing laundry, just household things that a family does, right? That's a totally different conversation than 7 o'clock and you're speaking to a 21-year-old that is not married, doesn't have kids, and it's a Friday night. What do you think that they're going to be doing? They're not going to be sitting down with dinner with the family. They're probably going to be at the tail end of happy hour, or they might be with their friends out to see a movie at odd times. They might be working out. They might be doing things that aren't necessarily linked to family. So when you go into this first section, sure, it seems weird at first, but then, it's a different thought process depending on who it is that you're talking to. Now I have a line here that says attractive, and that might seem really strange to have that, but really what this is a profile to understand the psychology of an individual. And it's not necessarily whether or not you think they're attractive or not, it's whether or not they think they're attractive or not. And that's very different, because once you understand that a person might be struggling in any way, that's an opportunity for you to help out. And I put that in there, and it doesn't mean it's not perfect for every niche that people might have. Like you might have a niche that being attractive means nothing, right? Like you sell car tires. It doesn't help. But if you are in the coaching industry and you're a mindset coach of some kind, that might be an important profile to know. Like, I have certain people that respond this way to these ads and this way to these ads, and it's because of this one thing that I'm talking to, is whether or not they think of themselves a certain way. Maybe some people's self-esteem is high, so you want to speak to them a different way in your marketing. If they have a self-esteem that's low, then you might speak to them differently. You might show them different images, right? So you might tell them different stories. It's very, very important. It doesn't make sense for every niche, but it is something that you want to focus on. Marital status, again, it's not useful for every niche, but I wanted to make this worksheet useful for everybody, as many people as I could. And being married or not being married, it can have an impact on what it is that you're trying to sell and convey, that message you're trying to convey. Geography. I think from the previous section into this section, I think it makes sense now why we would even want to have geography here: city, state, zip code, the region, if they're in a city or out in the country. These things are important for you because now you can say, okay, I have an avatar that is in one part of the country, and then I have another avatar that's in another part of the world. You might have different customs, you might have different traditions that people might have in certain areas. So you might want to think about those things when you're creating marketing campaigns or advertising campaigns. You don't want to run ads on these days, or want to speak to things in different ways, so that if it's Christmas time, that people in a certain country or a certain part of the of the United States, they might have a certain tradition, and you can speak to that in a marketing campaign or in a message, and really target that emotion and really capture that. On a side note, if you do know the geography down to the state and the zip code of your avatar, the people that you really want to help, you can target your advertising to those exact areas. So if you have a bar or a restaurant or boutique shop, you might want to make sure that you're advertising to a small subset of your local area versus people in Florida if you're on the West Coast, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense to advertise. You're throwing money away in that instance anyways. But that's another reason why this particular profile is so hugely important, is because it helps you narrow down your focus. The next thing we want to talk about is psychology. Political party. I think in the United States, the political climate is absolutely on fire right now. You never know who is offended by what, and understanding a political party is not to say that you know who to attract or who to repel or who to offend and who not to offend. It's more of, if you take a bigger picture and you're looking down on everything and you understand, okay, what I have to offer will resonate differently in one political party versus another political party. It's just the way things are in today's political world. If that's important to you in how you're marketing, then you definitely want to get into that psychology and really think about those things. Again, maybe it doesn't affect you at all. Disregard it. Entitled and not entitled. And I think this is under the psychology section, because we can get into the semantics of how people think, and that'll be a whole nother video. But if you have a person that feels and thinks a certain way, and maybe you're trying to solve a problem for that person, then these sorts of psychological things might be things that help when you're out there profiling this person. When you go down to write an ad, you might say, oh, this word really resonates with this type of feeling that this person is having. Then you put that in your advertising, and suddenly you're converting like crazy. Education, it can be an interesting psychological direction. The same with degree. People are from a certain educational background, then you can use certain words and vocabulary that will get them to listen to you more. It's just kind of it's plain as day, right? When people have been inside of curriculum for so long, they learn terminology and they learn the way they like to describe certain things in that industry. If you start speaking their language, then you have won half the battle, really. Midlife crisis, is it complete? Is it not? I think that it kind of ties in with age. People that might be going through any type of crisis, not just a midlife crisis. And I guess that next line, currently struggling, that gives you an opportunity to solve specific problems, which is why I have this on here, because it's going to get you thinking about things maybe you wouldn't have normally thought about. Like, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. If a person's going through this sort of thing at this time in their life, maybe they don't even want what I have to offer. Maybe it doesn't even make sense. So you want to not attract that person into your marketing. Their favorite books, that it has a huge bearing on the psychology of an individual, because their favorite books tend to influence the way they think. And if you understand or create a profile of people that, hey, yeah, a lot of the people that I've attracted into my customer base, they really enjoy certain types of books, and they really read all of these books from this type of author. And then from there, you can kind of go into those books, you can read those books, you can get inside of that mindset and understand, oh, this is why they feel this way. It's because when they read this part of this particular story, it totally changed everything for them. And now I understand that. So when you go in to create for them, either a product or service or marketing or advertising, then you can nail down a very specific emotion and thought process. And that's powerful. Scrolling back up here, favorite magazines, favorite binge watching, movies, those are all kind of the same thing as the books. Are they a pet lover? I find that people that own pets treat them like children. And I had my fair share of pets in my day, and I will totally agree with that. They become part of the family, and it's just the way it is. And understanding that, then maybe you can really get a bigger picture of who it is you're talking to. You know that somebody that's owned a dog or a cat at some point has had to do a middle of the night emergency for that animal, and you know that they've had to deal with that. So maybe you can slip that in when you're using an email newsletter and you're telling a story. Maybe you can say, I remember this one time when my cat did this, and then suddenly everybody that's ever had a cat immediately relates to you. And it's something that's interesting for connecting with people, and it helps you to build a very emotional connection. Mentors. That line is probably one of the most important lines in the whole worksheet. Whether or not somebody has a mentor, or if they use YouTube and books as their mentors, this will give you an idea as to where they are in their life's journey. A lot of people that have mentors or don't have mentors are going to be at different parts of their journey. And when I say their journey, it's just what it is that they're trying to do. Some people might be trying to build a new business. Other people might be trying to do better with their kids. They might be trying to learn a new skill. Maybe they're trying to learn how to fish, whatever it is, right? Having a mentor gives that person the ability to shortcut all of the pain and to go beyond that. And once they get into the level of where they want to be, to understand that and to be able to intertwine that and weave that into your marketing message, it can be very powerful. If you can pick up on that and build on that, it's huge, very much. Finances. This is an interesting one. I think that it's important to understand where people are financially. so that if you are selling a higher price product or even a lower price product, that you know exactly what's going to get people to come off of the fence. A lot of people will shop. Everybody shops. We have the internet now. We have the cell phone now. Everybody's connected to it. We've got our favorite websites. We've got our favorite social media groups that give us the advice we need. If we're going to make a purchase, people are going to talk to other people about what it is that they buy. And maybe that should have been a line on here, but what Facebook groups and social media groups are people in, and what are they asking them about purchases? Occupation, income, all these things that are kind of related to a person's finances can impact their ability to spend money with you. And understanding that and knowing that right off the top will give you the ability to lower that friction before that person even talks to you. Maybe you get ahead of this and you say, okay, I know who I'm trying to help. Maybe you have credit restoration and that's what you offer. These people more than likely are going to have struggling finances. They're not going to be able to pay you for whatever it is that you have to offer. So maybe it has to be in payment plans. Maybe it has to be a very low dollar amount cost to them. Maybe it needs to be free out of all things. Maybe you have to figure out a free way of solving problems for them. And that's going to be what you're going to get out of this finances section. Whether or not somebody gambles, if they like to buy luxury, what kind of car they drive. What kind of car they drive is a very interesting one under vehicle here, because it gives you this ability to visualize that person, your avatar. Whenever you're trying to create for them and you can picture them in your mind, the more that you can do that, the more that you can create things for that person and speak to one person versus speaking to a group of people. So that's kind of something that I always do when I use these worksheets. I might scan it quickly for ideas, and then I might go, okay, like I might picture this person pulling up to my house and getting out of their car, and out comes their whole family, right? So what kind of car are they driving? They pull up to my house and they get out of a Tahoe, right? Big old car, huge family, right? They come out. So I can kind of picture those things, and then I speak to whoever it is that I need to have a conversation with, and from there my ideas flow. And that's just something that I do personally to get my mind going. How do I use this worksheet? How do I make this a beneficial activity for me? 65 or older is on here, and that's really just kind of a prelude to are they retired or not. So that's an important line item there. Leisure, and we're almost done here. So this video is running a little bit longer than I would have hoped, but I think it's helpful here. If I'm missing anything or if I'm glazing over any of this stuff and you want me to shoot another video, let me know in the comments below. Shoot me an email. I'll leave the links down around this video so you can easily contact me. Also, you can reach out on Facebook. That's probably the best way. The leisure section, this gives you an idea of, I would say, some of the pop culture stuff and the local stuff that you can use in your advertising and marketing to kind of sweep these people in and kind of attract them in a non-aggressive, passive way, which is ultimately the best thing, because, and I probably should have mentioned this in the beginning, but people like to buy, they don't like to be sold. And that's kind of the whole point of creating this avatar, right? Is you're going in with a very passive approach when you creating these campaigns, because people, if you think about it, the last commercial I remember from today was I was watching a McDonald's commercial. They didn't show me anything that related to the food at all. If McDonald's tried to sell people based on the food, no one would eat there. But they sell people in commercials on the feelings and emotions. So the leisure things that people were doing in that video, in that commercial, are like, they're driving down the street with the windows down, the wind's blowing through their hair, it's summertime, they have their sunglasses on, their dog's hanging out of the side of the car with their mouth out, tongues wagging all over the place. You've got another scene where these guys are playing basketball out on the street hoops, and they're having fun doing it. They're building camaraderie, and they're having a great time, smiling, laughing. And the very last scene, some girl's got her McDonald's to-go bag. She sits down on a park bench. It looked like it was Central Park or Battery Park or something like that. And she opens up her burger, and then she eats that thing. And that was it. That was just a very split second. Ate the burger, right? But all those things, all leisure activities. And it didn't do anything for me to see them doing leisure activities, but from an emotional level, I connected, and I felt like that was an emotional connection. And I was like, oh, this is a McDonald's commercial? Weird, right? But at the same time, that connected me, and look, I'm talking to you about it, right? It resonated, even though it's just McDonald's. But that's the whole point of understanding your avatar. You have leisure activities. How do you wrap that into what it is that people who you want to bring into your business, what is it that makes them click? What makes them tick? What do they like to do? I like to go camping. So anytime a car commercial that comes on shows camping in the car commercial, immediately I see myself in that car commercial wondering if that car would be good for me. And then immediately I'm like, no, that car is not good for me. I know 1 second in the camping trip, I'm going to destroy something on the car, and it's not going to be big enough. I can't fit, blah, 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 blah. Right? And I'll be like, that car is totally not a camping car. Shouldn't have been in that car commercial. But that's just me. My point being is that when you go through all of these sections, you get down to the emotional level of where you need to be in order to connect with somebody. Now, here's where all the money is made. Fears and challenges. I broke this out into a couple of sections: health, wealth, spirituality, psychology, and then fear, straight up, frustrations. And then I've got another section down here, and we'll get to that in 1 minute. The reason why I say that, the reason why I say this is where we make all of our money, is because when you look at a person and you understand truly that they're human, you know that they are scared. You know that they have their own issues. I remember this meme that I came across one day, and it was something like, I might look like I've got it all together, but my sock is halfway off inside of my shoe, or something like that. And I thought that was kind of hilarious. My delivery on that was horrible, but you get my point. But I thought it was hilarious because even though people on the outside might look like they're all together, they have internal struggles. Everybody does. And if they tell you they don't, they're lying. And it is within these fears and these challenges that we have an opportunity as a business owner to take whatever it is that we are offering and to solve these problems for them. And I think it's a very empowering thing to go through this list and to really think about these things, to say, these are all the things that I know my business can help with, and I know these people are going through these things, and now my business is going to be so much better because I've gotten all of this clarity, and I'm able to know what it is that I'm going to do every day, and how I'm going to take this business, and how I'm going to compete, and why I should compete. It is inside of these fears and challenges that all of this success lies. And the beauty of all of this is that the more people you help, the more that you're making these fears and these challenges go away. And if you can do that in a community, you've made your mark on the world. even if you did this for 5 people, 5 businesses, you've made your mark on the world. And that's the thing that I really enjoy about being in business, is I know that I'm helping solve problems for people, and the more problems that I can help solve, I know that it's going to get whoever I'm helping to that next step, to that next level. And I think we all want success. Even though it's a competition, I get it. You're going to be competing with people that have the same sort of products you have, but that's okay. If we have a world of abundance, and we know that there's going to be a place for everybody, and that we can all be successful. As the saying goes, a rising tide raises all ships, and that's really the way that I feel about this particular process. If I go in and I look at these fears and challenges, and I am able to break it all down, then I did something, right? And it was worth it. It was worth my time. So let's kind of go through these really quickly. Health, wealth, and spirituality. The first 3 here. I think they're pretty self-explanatory. For health challenges and fears, maybe people, they might have self-esteem that they need to work on. They might have dieting that they need to work on, exercising that they need to work on, whatever it is, right? Like, I think health is pretty obvious. If you need pointers, I'm sure you could just go online. Wealth, how much money they make, did they just lose their job, did they get a promotion, do they want a promotion and got passed up, those sorts of things can be in there. Spirituality, maybe people are trying to find themselves and they are looking for religion, or maybe they're not religious and they're just looking for connection and community. Psychologically, their fears, I mean, and that's kind of a broad stroke there, psychologically, and then fears is probably a pretty broad stroke for both of those. But really the aim of having those 2 sections there was really just to kind of keep you thinking and to keep you kind of going through. Like, psychologically, maybe people have routines that they can't break, and maybe people have been through trauma of some kind. Maybe you want to notate that and just, be aware of that. And when you use marketing and advertising, that you're sensitive to whatever that stuff is. Fears and frustrations, I think, again, are broad strokes, but when you have fear and you have frustration, you have opportunity. And I think if you're breaking those down and writing those down and getting down into the exact detail for those, you're going to see that you've improved your product or your service in some way, because now you're saying, okay, I know that this happens. How do I make it not happen for these people? And therein lies the hidden treasure for you. Okay, so the last and final and most important step is this section here, is where you want to, let me zoom out. You want to get a picture of this person that you have created this profile for. It can be just this random stock photo. Maybe it can be a celebrity. I don't care what it is. The idea here is that that person then embodies all of the things you wrote down on your worksheet beforehand. And this helps for one of those visualization exercises that you would go through if you wanted to create something for this individual, to have their face staring at you when you're writing a letter or an email or a newsletter or writing a section of a website. You can stare at that person and you can talk to them, literally talk to them on paper, out loud, whatever. I'm not judging you. And once you start to do that, you'll realize that the connection you have with those people are going to be much better, because you're now talking to a single individual versus a group. Whenever you're talking to a group, people don't feel like you're talking to them. And that's really ultimately why we go through this profile and why we create this profile, so that we can sound more and more like we're talking to just one person. Okay, so this video is running up on 30 minutes, and I think I've clarified, hopefully, every section here. If it sounds like there's something that you would like further clarity on, or if you feel like I'm missing an entire section, let me know. I can add it in, send you an updated worksheet, and hopefully that will be something that you'll use for time to come. If you have any questions about this, go ahead and hit me up on Facebook or shoot me an email. The email will be down below. And I hope to see you on the next video.